Death comes to us all. Hey, hi, Angel here. Thanks for stopping by. Thinking about death again because I got an old dog who's starting to suffer, and it's not the first time I've contemplated this strange dichotomy we have between being so against suicide and then so in favor of euthanization of our pets. And I don't have any answer to it. I just think it's pretty interesting how much easier we get on board with all things must die, which is true. Like all things, as far as we know, all living things, all things born die. And with our pets, it seems easier to make that choice when it comes down to how much suffering is enough suffering. And I think it's interesting. We could tend to kind of judge each other sometimes. I know I have caught myself being judgmental about other people's choices regarding euthanizing out of convenience, and I have had people be aghast that I have allowed my pets to suffer as long as they have instead of euthanizing sooner. And you could argue that is also for convenience. There's cost involved, there's emotional upset, there's digging a hole, all those things that aren't that convenient about death of people and animals, of our loved ones. And of course, if they're not our loved ones, we just leave them right where they lay, huh? Usually, unless they start to pile up. Any case, my diggity dog friend, he has been suffering a lot. However, he still, like he just barked at me, he still enjoys the thought of a walk, and he'll still walk around the block. So, I don't know. I'm in a quandary, as to how long to wait to euthanize him, or do I let him, like I did my last two cats, suffer until it was unbearable, and then I ended up, we could say euthanizing them, only it was a little more brutal than that. And it's interesting how we use that term for just certain specific ways of dying, putting to sleep, which I guess is where that came from. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'm not interested in your accusations or your judgment, although if you need to offload some of that on me, you're welcome to, of course. I can't stop you. But really, I'm interested in your thoughts about, why do we consider it so terrible when a person dies, or especially when they commit suicide, unless they're like really super sick? And then why do we think it's fine to euthanize an older animal, even if they're still enjoying part of the day? Or, what do you think? How much is too much for suffering? For example, I've been living with chronic pain since pre-puberty. I've had rheumatoid arthritis for the last few years. I've had severe pain in my elbows. And before that it was in my hands. And so I have various degrees of pain most of the time to some extent. And usually it's fairly tolerable and mild and I can just tune it out. Sometimes it's acute and excruciating and it encompasses my whole day. And, I wouldn't want anybody to come put me to sleep or euthanize me during those times that I was suffering. In fact, I'm suffering because I'm trying to work through it. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to regain, capability, regain functionality. And so as my old dog is in there starting to suffer some days, and some people might think, well, he's suffering, clearly suffering, then you should put him to sleep or have him euthanized. And then a couple days later he feels better, though, is the thing. So I know really ultimately for me the conclusion I've come to again and again is that it's an individual thing, that when it happens when it happens. Much like birth, death is a very individualized and individual, very personal to the individual process, and it varies. I have had the privilege of witnessing, holding a body through several deaths, mostly animals. I've tried to save a lot of animals when I was a little girl and had a lot of them die, and I've euthanized several of my pets with my own hands, which some people find gruesome. But you know what? People used to kill their own food with their own hands regularly, and I grew up in a town where that was the case, and so it doesn't seem as horrible to me as it might to you. Here in the city, people can't conceive of that, and it seems unconceivable anyway. It's just interesting how we think of death differently, and ultimately, I think that it is our unhealthy fear of death which causes a whole lot of suffering. Uh, and I don't have the answer. I don't know what happens after death. I'm not pretending to be any kind of expert. I just know we kind of all have equal shot at that, don't we? At gaining an understanding or coming to a conclusion about it. So I'm interested to know what your thoughts and beliefs are. If you have any good reads, any great sources that might enlighten us all, or me at least, please share in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe.